Howard Herring is the CEO and president of the New World Symphony. We understand that. We've started labeling him as the creative CEO, right? And so what usually happens if you've been to Creative Mornings is I get up here and I say something really clever about something really fun that happened with the speaker over the last week. But we had a hard time trying to only isolate Howard to like some little thing. And we realized if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then a video's probably worth 1,000,000. So we put together this quick 1-minute video to sort of capture the morning that we spent with Howard. And we're gonna share that with you right now.
Here's another way to look at it. So they come to Miami and they spend their time. And when they leave Miami, they think it's just like Seattle. Or when they leave Miami, they say, wow, those guys on the technology side, those guys are really on it. They took us to places we didn't realize you could go in terms of having real conversations.
I'd like to welcome Howard Herring to the stage.
Thank you, Malik. Welcome, everybody. Q, bring the lights up just a little bit on the audience. I want this to be more of a conversation than, just me talking to you, right? Because New World Symphony is a lot about dialogue. First of all, let's celebrate Creative Mornings. A year? Yes, fantastic. A year? Malik and Martel Harding and Catalina Ayubi and Michelle Kacharsik and Ashley Abbas, those are the ones who are working hard on this one, but you guys have put together quite a network of individuals here in Miami to make this real. I want to also take a moment to introduce the staff and fellows of New World Symphony who are here this morning, the ones who got up early. Right, guys, stand for just a second. All my colleagues. Yeah, back there in the back. We work very hard here, but we also have a lot of fun. So, New World, for those of you, how many of you are here for the first time? Whoa, yes. Thank you, Creative Mornings. So the idea that I want to talk to you just briefly about New World, but I also want to invite you to either the rehearsal later or the concert this evening on Saturday. New World is an orchestral academy. There's only one of us in the whole world. And we set ourselves up as working in the middle ground between formal academic endeavor and professional life. So our players come to us with at least an undergraduate, most with a master's degree. They will have a 3-year fellowship. Over the course of that 3 years, they have what we call an experiential curriculum. They are constantly auditioning for positions, usually in orchestras, and they leave us to go to pursue their careers, and hopefully we've made them stronger and more creative and smarter about how they'll live their lives. So we play 80 concerts a year as part of that curriculum. You can come hear us even tonight. And tonight will be a 1-hour performance. It's called Encounters. It's actually a 2-part experience. Narrated presentation, the narration supported by video, and after the performance is over, you can join the orchestra in the atrium to continue the conversation. Beethoven is the subject tonight. Jamie Bernstein is our narrator. That's Leonard Bernstein's daughter. So you're getting quite a legacy there. And in the conversation, or in the presentation she will make, hopefully stimulate your imaginations, and you'll be even more ready for the music that you hear. It's part of our New Audience Initiative. Okay, so we're all about our fellows, but we're also a laboratory for generating new ideas about the way music is taught and presented and experienced. Taught, presented, and experienced. It's a broad range of endeavors, but we're moving in all those fronts. So we want to talk about crossover today. It applies in several ways in the larger world. So let's just take a quick look at some of the ways we apply this term. In science, there's such a thing as a genetic crossover. That's when you take old forms and make new ones. So here are the dancing genes. Do we have our dancing genes? Hey, guys.
Do you have your clicker cards?
The clicker.
And the dancing clickers.
That's Beth Bolen, who's my dancing assistant. So there they are. Okay. So on the left, obviously, the genes that are old form, and they create new forms as they recombine. There's also entrepreneurial crossover. That's when an idea and energy meet resource. So here's a shot of Steve Jobs in his garage. I hope there's enough garages in Silicon Valley to create the next wave of adventure. Maybe the garages are here in Miami. But when idea, thank you. Who's supporting that, right? When the idea met resource, it became Apple. So here's what the Apple headquarters look like right now. Ooh, yeah, big. So the last crossover I want to talk about in the larger world is basketball. If you go on the internet, you can look at the best basketball crossovers of 2013 or 2014. So this is when the defender has his legs crossed and the offensive player just moves right around him. So let's see what happens when we cross over in basketball. Watch number 11. Oh, there you go. He fell again. My point is that crossover does get us off balance, takes us off balance. We need to be resilient. We need to be ready to bounce back. Okay, so I'm going to contrast 3 crossovers, but crossover, yeah, you remember her? Yeah. How many of you wrote her a note? How many? Raise your hand again. 1, 2, 3. Not enough. All right, so we'll give you her email address at the end. Before we dive in here, though, crossover, of course, is one way. It implies a physical change, but I also want to think about a larger word for crossover, which I'm going to say is transformation. So I want to talk about crossover and transformation today, and I want to there's 3 parallel transformations I want to talk about. The first one is the New World and the revival of Lincoln Road, the founding of New World and the revival of Lincoln, the creation of the New World Center, where we are today, and Miami's cultural awakening, and then the development of our new programs in what I call the next Miami. So let's go quickly here. New World was founded by the philanthropist Ted Arison and Michael Tilson Thomas, who is our artistic director. This all began at a breakfast table. Ted Arison and his wife Lynn were reading a magazine, national magazine. Tom Hoving, who was then the head of the Metropolitan Museum in New York, called Miami a cultural wasteland. So some of us remember that story. It was game on for Ted, and we see the results. So Michael and Ted met one another. They talked about what could be possible, and Ted decided that he wanted to fund this idea of an orchestral academy, and off we went. That was 27 years ago. It was humble beginnings. We rehearsed in the Miami Beach Recreation Center, alternating with the bingo games. We played our first concert in 1988. And I think this is a really good example of entrepreneurial crossover, entrepreneurial transformation, Michael and Ted putting the idea and the money together. So what was going on in Miami at that same time? Mariel Boatlift, Castro emptied the jails, and many of those folks arrived here in Miami Beach. The drug wars were raging. Thanks to Miami Vice, we know all about that. And Lincoln Road was boarded up. There was still a little bit of retail, but almost none was remaining. Ted Arison bought the Lincoln Theater for the New World Symphony, and that was the first move. That was in 1987 that he made that move. The movie theaters followed, and the Lowe's Hotel built their flagship resort there on the beach. And what has happened since, we all know that story. So to me, this is partially about entrepreneurial crossover, entrepreneurial transformation, but also about old forms becoming new. So that's the first parallel transformation. The second is how we moved from that Lincoln Theater into this building. We found very quickly, by the late 1990s, it was obvious that our dream would never be realized in that building. God love it, but Michael used to call it the one-room schoolhouse, and that's quite appropriate. I'm going to show you a shot here. We were developing our online programming. This is Stephen Gaber, who was the principal cellist of the Cleveland Orchestra, and he was in Cleveland. And this is Carter Bray on the right, who's principal cellist of the New York Philharmonic. He was in New York, and we were here in Miami. Michael working with our cello section. We were getting ready to go to Carnegie Hall. This was in 2004, and this was the first three-way, geographically three location internet hookup that we had done, but we knew that we were going to go much farther with all of that. So we made a plan, we made a program first, and then we made a space plan, square footage, cubic footage, adjacencies, and all that, and we took it to Frank Gehry. We tried to imagine what the world was going to be like in 2030 and 2040, and what would our fellows need to function in that world, and therefore what kind of training would they need, and what would be the building that would support it. So the plan was taken to Frank, and we sat down with Frank in the very first session, and even in the first 30 minutes, he rocked back in his chair and he said, "Michael, what is this?" And Michael said, "I'm going to ask you, Frank, we're going to start with the front door, and I'm going to ask you to design us a front door that does not say, show up at 8 o'clock, suit and tie, sit up straight, don't talk to your neighbor, clap when we tell you to clap, we're done with you at 10:20. Make this an invitation. Make it transparent, invite the community. You get them in the door, get them across the threshold, we'll take it from there." So that's the beginnings of an important transformation. You see the squiggle here. This is the first time Frank it was about 18 months after that conversation that he finally sat down and drew the front of this building. And you can already see it, the glass there in the center, and then what we use is the wall casting on the right and on the left. Yeah, it's pretty clear, right? Yeah. Oh, it's up to you. So we made it. We made the construction work. We made it on time, on budget. That's an important milestone for Miami. I knew that would get a laugh. Yeah, we can do this, guys. We can work on time, on budget. We can do this. Yeah. And then we opened in January of 11. We've been in here now almost 4 years. We had 5 days running coverage in the New York Times, a lot of coverage nationally and internationally, and we are now building that profile beyond Miami. So what's happened in Miami in that same period of time? I want to tell you a quick story. Jane Jacobs, who is quite famous in the urban planning world and who was writing books in the 50s and the 60s, mid-20th century in New York and observing what was going on there and expanding on that in really wise ways. She defines a city. This is in a book that she called The Death and Life of Great American Cities. And in that book, she talks about how a city is made geographically, that it is the city as a whole. It's the districts, which she considers sort of 100,000 person units, and then neighborhoods, so small, medium, and large. And she says that when a city is maturing, people from all the districts from across the city are coming together around an idea that is for the civic good. And very often it's cultural facilities that are built as a result of this coming together. So while we were getting ourselves ready to get into this building, Miami was on the march as well. We've put $1 billion of public-private partnerships into this city on the cultural side in the last 10 years. First was Arsht, then came New World, Southdale Cultural Center, Perez Art Museum, Miami. Frost Science Center is coming very shortly, and there's been a lot of renovation and additions along the way. So public good, public-private partnerships, all of that brought us to a new place. And now culture defines Miami, both here and outside of this city. Very important. So that's the second parallel transformation. The third has to do with where we're going and where this city is going. So for us, it's about program development. We have an experiential curriculum. It's based on the aspiration of our players and the challenges of the field. Orchestral music has some really wonderful things happening. It also has some significant challenges these days, but our players are going to go out there and make a difference. We're exploring video and music. So I want to play you a short clip of how we're reimagining sight and sound. When Alex Ross saw us do this on the opening week of this building, he called it a new genre. That was, in fact, what we were intending. We didn't expect to be recognized for it quite that quickly, but let me show you what we're up to. So this is Stravinsky's Circus Polka. Stravinsky wrote this piece for Barnum and Bailey Circus when he first got to the United States. It was for elephants and ballerinas. That was the way Barnum and Bailey thought he was going to entertain his crowd. Emily Eckstein did the animations for us, and here's what it looks like. So we had to play it for you that way because the screen is down, but when we do it, and the other 10 or 12 pieces we've done for video and music, we put it on the 5 sails across the top here. So the orchestra is playing live and the video is running. We're also investigating wall casting. How many of you have been to a wall cast? Ooh, that's beautiful. All the rest of you, if you've not been, please come. 14 times a year, we turn this building inside out and we put the concert on the wall. 167 speakers. We continue to be the way people understand outdoor sound as we move into the future. We're also being copied. The Kennedy Center and Mesa, Performing Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona are already talking about building buildings that will allow wall casting. We've just started. We're almost 4 weeks old in something called Mosaic. This is an online searchable library of teaching moments, and it's designed for middle and high school, talented middle and high school students, college matriculated music majors, amateur players, young professionals in the larger world, the larger audience for classical music. Mosaic, musaic.nws.edu. So I invite you to go online and take a look. I'd love to get your comments on how you experience Mosaic. We're investigating new audiences. We're at the center of a 7 professional orchestra consortium. We're actually the leaders of that consortium. We have 3 ways of bringing music to an audience that fits their lifestyle. 30-minute performances, the encounters that we're going to do this weekend, and Pulse, late night at the New World Symphony. How many of you have been to Pulse? Okay, not enough, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there if you all pay attention. In November, starts at 9:30. It finishes at about 1 o'clock in the morning. These seats go back. You can have a drink. You can roam around this wonderful facility. We do 2 orchestra sets, alternating with DJ mix. You can dance. You can listen. You can have a good time. So that's what we're doing as far as new audiences are concerned. This is partially about the genetic old forms to new forms, partially about entrepreneurial transformation, and we're on our way. All right, so what is the next Miami? Let's think about the facts for a moment. $86 million has been put into this city over the last 7 years by the Knight Foundation. That's for culture, $86 million. We have a $1 billion bond issue that was passed for infrastructure of the public schools. Lab Miami, Venture Hive, more organizations than that, but I use those because they're the prominent ones. Ideas are being developed there. Funding is being linked to ideas, so we're on the move. We have a poetry festival. Oh, Miami. This is one of the most important parts of the future of Miami as far as I'm concerned. And you'll see that we did a wall cast of the Poetry Festival this last year. Borscht Film Festival starting to get national, international prominence. We were very pleased about that. Atlantic Live has chosen to come to this space and talk about the future of Miami. They do a Startup City Miami event each year. They'll do another one this year. So we're getting some national attention on that side. And then there's a phenomenon that I just call the groups. And you'll see that Creative Mornings is one of many groups in this city who have come together to try to understand ourselves. We're talking to each other, we're asking for advice, we're acting on our plans, and we're reflecting on our results. I see this as in an unacknowledged way, one of our primary assets, the fact that we are all ready to talk about it and make something happen. And last of all, our Miami initiative, which was launched last week, data on eight aspects of livability in this city. We can use that data to push forward and to take informed risk as we build our strategies, something that we haven't done enough of yet, but thanks to the Miami Foundation and Our Miami, we're going to be able to do that. So, summarizing, where are we with these fundamental transformations? We have talent, we have energy, we have money. The ideas are flowing. Now, we may not be bringing those all together as quickly as we'd like, but we can actually pick up that pace. Question is how to be smart about the future. When we were lobbying for this building and we were talking to everyone, government officials, funders, the press, as we talked about this building, we talked a lot about our fellows and the mission and vision of the New World Symphony and how we had a chance to influence, have a positive influence on the future of classical music. That was us. But we talked about ourselves as a community asset, a very critical piece to the formation of the ideas that were behind this building. All of you have come this morning. By coming this morning, you've told me that you're thoughtful, creative, eager, building ideas of your own. So I would suggest that as you pursue your personal and professional aspirations, that you think not just about what will be good for you, but what will be good for the larger community, how we will come together for the common good. I actually think that's going to become a Miami marker. I think that's going to be how we are known as we push this city forward. If we work together, we can make it an even better city than it is for all of us and all the others out there. I welcome the chance to do that with you. Thank you very much.
So we have a couple of minutes for Q&A. So if anyone has a question, Howard will answer. We'll get to that. Yes.
I'm working in Washington, D.C. I'm doing an art piece about lighting artists, and I am using the music of Duke Ellington, who studied not far from the site where I'm working, coincidentally, the Florida underpass. So I take the music of Duke Ellington and transform it into lighting. So you don't hear the music, but the music becomes the foundation of how the lighting moves and transforms itself. So I'm trying to understand music. I don't have a musical ear, but I'm now going to start studying music to understand how I can transform music and how the colors of music into the colors of lighting. This is a piece that is going to be featured close to the Gallaudet University, which is a university for the deaf, the largest in the world. And I want music to be visible.
This is fascinating. How many people know about synesthesia? So that's part of where you're going. And you're also in a place that is probably only possible because of digital reality. Would that be accurate? So all of us are living in this digital craziness. I think of it as similar to post-Gutenberg. That's talked about a lot. But the trick is to not let it intimidate us and do what you're doing. And that's what we do here at New World all the time, and it's what you're doing there, which is a fascinating idea. So, pardon? It is crossover, absolutely. One form to another, old form to new form, but run through a digital amplifier, combiner, whatever the verbs are. But yeah, fantastic. Transducer, yes. Ooh, that's good.
Well, it's fascinating to come here. See, my company is based in Miami, Florida.
Yes.
My family is here, but I live in D.C. and I work there.
We can fix the living in D.C. part.
But it's fascinating to come here. I was in a creative morning in D.C. that was fantastic about color, and I come here. Hopefully, I can do that from time to time.
Absolutely.
Justify the expenses.
I'll write you a note. I'll write you a note. Yeah, we're good. So when will your piece go up? When will it be completed?
Well, it should be start next year. So now that I have composed the lighting elements that will create this, I'm writing the word Florida in ASL, American Sign Language. This is white, and then there is a cyclorama of color changing with LEDs, and this is going to be featuring the music of Duke Ellington.
Yeah.
The A Train and all Indigo Food, all these pieces. I want to store a library because I will have funds of all the music of Duke Ellington, and this music is going to be featuring lighting,
Yeah.
silent, for 24 hours a day, all day long.
We should talk. We should talk. How many of you are involved in a digital crossover in some way comparable to what you've just heard described? A handful, right? That's where we're going, guys. I mean, it's there to be done, and you can't be intimidated by the technology. You just got to dive in. Yeah.
I was really impressed with the mosaic and the wall cast and the pulse and all the things that you were describing. I work with a lot of old school companies like Unilever and MetLife to try and help them to innovate. And that said respectfully, you are a person who's maybe older than 25. How have you been able to embrace that spirit of innovation and that sort of culture change that it requires?
The question's about how an old guy like me can be. Have the spirit of innovation. So I crawl out of bed every morning and do my best. The answer to the question is a good question, because one of the challenges here is not to use new media to just take old forms and put them in new media. Right? That is deadly. How many of you read Marshall McLuhan? Yeah, right? He talked a lot about that. And if you go back and read McLuhan, if you haven't read Marshall McLuhan, you owe it to yourself to go back and spend a couple of days pushing through his primary writings. The intrigue about all this, any creative mind, any creative spirit looks for whatever tools they can find. And when you are given digital tools, when all of a sudden they're in your hands, as long as you hold tight to the expression that you envision, then you just start to use those tools. Now, the beauty of a laboratory like the New World Symphony is that you can screw up and rake it off the table and keep moving. And we do that a lot. We don't always get it right. We don't always get it right in public. Yeah, that's a dangerous thing. Yeah, but we keep trying. So the idea is to keep the vision, use the tools, be ready for mistakes, and then go on. Now, I don't know whether you can help Unilever push on up into the 21st century or not, but that's a general approach that we have. Yeah.
Many of us grew up with music as part of our parents' curriculum to make us refined and all that sort of stuff. When we studied piano, we went to symphony because we had to. Since this organization began, the most exciting thing I do, and I do many exciting things, this is the most exciting place in Miami because it is the most outward bound.
So,
The goal of this building to invite people On the scale of 1 to 10, 47.
So this is also a digital understanding, because a lot of what you see out front in a lot of ways, this building is a digital building. This is in Frank's mind, he would say this is the first completely digital design that he ever did. He used it long before, but this one was totally digital, and all of the wallcast is clearly a digital expression. But what's important about all of that, and going back to using the tools, you set your goal and then you use your tools, was that we were indeed trying to knock down, finish off, forget that old school business of you go to the symphony because you're told to go, all right? It was like going to church or reading a book you didn't want to read. It's music that was made for all of us. Beethoven didn't sit around thinking about how he was going to force somebody to come listen to his music, all right? So, thank you very much. That's a beautiful statement. Wow. You made my morning, my creative morning.
So from an emotional design perspective, like moving forward, what do you want your audience to feel? Where do you want to take your audience? Any thoughts you can share with us about that, looking into the future?
So any musician, the question is, what do we want our audiences to feel? Is that accurate? Where do we want to take our audience in the future? A musician is driven to share. Start with that. And in the sharing, whether it's in a hall like this or in a shoebox-shaped concert hall or on the street or in an art gallery or wherever it is, the impulse to share is bedrock. What happens in the imagination of the listener is beyond our control, but we know it's powerful because people clap, not out of obligation. All right? When this audience catches fire, you can tell it's because we touched something in them. We never know quite what that is, but what we do know is that we want it to be strong. We want it to be pure. We want it to be energetic. We want somebody to, and I don't care if they hate it. That's fine too. We play a lot of new music here. We've done 25 living composers in a season, all right? And you can get to some stuff that a lot of people don't really like. And if they tell us that, that's fine too. But it's got to be a big response. So what we want is the intellectual and emotional linkage to fire in your imagination. That's about as far as we can take it. We know what we're intending, we know what we're sharing, and then it's up to you. Yeah? That's participatory. Yeah, participatory. Yeah.
Traditional musician. She's my sister. We're indigenous from the Andes in Peru. And we came here in 1993. When we came, we didn't know anybody in Miami. And at one point, we were a family of 7, mom, dad, and 5 children. And we did not have enough money. So we ended up singing on the streets on Ocean Drive, our traditional music. And this is Andean music, so for so many years we've seen Andean musicians play on the streets, on the subways. And we went to school, we studied here, we all graduated. 2 of my siblings are doing PhDs. But we continued to play our music. And when we recorded our first CD, we decided that we didn't want to be on the street anymore. And so we did our first concert on the Colony Theater. And that was going to be our last concert because we were recording it for our parents, but it was so successful and good that we decided to keep on going. And my father started not long ago teaching traditional music to children of our community. Usually, they're very at youth risk and poor children. So we have just created a foundation in which we continue to do this. We don't get any grants, we are self-funded. But right now, I'm interested in finding out, because we weren't trained musicians really. We studied a little bit of music, but so I'm interested. We've gone through this tradition, and it's wonderful because many of our music is not written, and we have a lot of problems with Western music trying to write our traditional songs and this. But we've established this dialogue with the children here, and I'm interested in finding out if you're interested in dialogue, musical dialogue between cultures.
This is an incredible question. So she's from the Andes, came to, for those of you who didn't hear it all, family coming from the Andes, arriving in Miami, starting to sing on Ocean Drive, sing for the public on Ocean Drive, finally made a recording, did their first concert at the Colony Theater, and their father has begun to work with children, but the music is not written down. Yes? So you're working call and response by rote. You're beginning to write it down. So the question is, where do you go from here?
We're doing a lot of participatory education in that sense too, because the children sometimes take music at school, so we're trying to write something of a song. We're teaching this by ear,
Yes.
but we're interested in also establishing with trained musicians.
So you got lucky. You got born in the digital age. Really. Because when you take a tradition that is centuries old and you put it into a digital framework, how you transfer that to the next generation gets easier. Yes? So what you need to do in this room, I guarantee it, in this room are people who can help you cause your idea to take the next step into formality without losing the essence of the music, right? And that's always a danger when you make that move to formality. So how many people, I know some of our fellows are going to want to talk to you. How many people in here would be interested in taking an Andean tradition and giving it some digital expression and moving on into the future? Anybody volunteering? Oh, yep, okay, we got one. And I'm going to introduce you to some fellows. And then CDs, okay. First of all, the CDs, there's a guy right there who's going to buy your CD. So there we go.
So I have to be that bad guy because that's not pretend going on over there, right? She's really working because the rehearsal starts in 15 minutes. So let's thank Howard very quickly. And this is going to be a sort of fly-through, run-through, right? Because there are a couple of people, you'll see their names up there, that we want to thank individually, but more than that, we just want to thank every person on our team, the 12 amazing speakers we had over the past year. The oldest was a 91-year-old patent developer. The youngest is one of the top 5 baristas in the country at Panther Coffee, who's nationally ranked. Our amazing partners, and of course, the beautiful Miami community. So we have 4 gifts for you, right? We have an amazing database that looks like LinkedIn plus Facebook. And so for 30 days, we don't want anything for ourselves for our birthday. We want to highlight one person each day from our profiles. And so on our website, on our social media, we've got these amazing profiles. We're just going to talk about one person new in this community every day for the next 30 days. We also are going to do one event a day for the next 30 days. Any amazing event that's in Miami is going to be small ones, large ones. We're going to highlight those. First event is obviously the rehearsal that starts at 10 o'clock. Warning about the 10 o'clock rehearsal. If you come to the 10 o'clock rehearsal, it's a complete run through, so you cannot leave until 11 o'clock. But we will be broadcasting it in the pavilion outside. And last, our next event is November 14th. It is Robin Hill. If you've ever seen the first Art Basel catalog, he's the photographer. And the envelopes. Now, it's not a lot of stuff in the envelopes, but if you open the envelopes, Awesome Foundation takes their own money, right? So Creative Mornings, we have no funding. We do this all on our own with our partners and our friends. We all have like real jobs. This is sort of our fun way of giving back to Miami. The same thing with the Awesome Foundation. Awesome Foundation, 12 individuals put together $1,000 a month and they give it to awesome people with awesome ideas. So our idea is there's about $5 in there, right? Which was very difficult to get from the foundation. They don't usually just give you cash. We were like, please give us the $1,000. They were like, no. But then they heard what we wanted to do, and we wanted everyone to take that little $5 and give it to someone else. Oh, sorry. We want everyone to take the $5 and use it for someone else. It's a small gesture, right? That's what we're about, small gestures for the greater community. We did not coordinate this talk. I did not hear the talk, but this is obviously a synergy here, and we thank you for coming.
Cool, Malik. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. I had such a good time putting this sucker together. It took me a long time, Beth will tell you.